Okay, everybody, hello. Welcome to Flea Market Fantasy number 5. This is your co-host, Mike Allen, and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
Yes, in this episode, we are going back to... Actually, I'm not even sure what year this is from, but it's late 70s, right?
1980.
1980, okay, 1980. And this is the first ever appearance of the macabre Moon Knight from Moon Knight number 1. And this is Mike Dell's pick. Oh, is it the first appearance or not?
It is not his first appearance.
What?
Yeah.
I'll
clue you into some Moon Knight trivia here in a second.
Okay, so here's the thing. That's definitely going to affect my review, but how would you like to do this then? Do you want to give the tidbits first?
Yeah, I'll give you a little background on the Moon Knight, and then we'll get into the plot of the specific issue, and then we'll talk about the creators and that kind of stuff, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, so this is Moon Knight number 1 from November 1980, and the title is The Macabre Moon Knight. But Moon Knight, first he was created by Doug, do you pronounce his name Moench? M-O-E-N-C?
Yeah, I used to say Moench, but I think someone said it's Mensch, as far as I know.
We'll go with Doug Moench. He was created by Doug Moench and artist Don Perlin, and Moon Knight first appeared in Werewolf by Night, number 32, in 1975.
Okay.
He that was a 2-story arc, and he was actually a villain who was hired to capture the werewolf. But
really?
Then by the end of the second issue, he kind of turned face, and he helped the werewolf escape. But then in issue 37 of Werewolf by Night, he returned again as like a demonic apparition or something. And then he had some solo appearances and guest spots in, I think, Marvel Spotlight in 1976. And then he did 2 issues of Spectacular Spider-Man in 1978.
Nice. Okay.
And by that time, he was recast as a hero. And I think I actually owned one of those issues.
Okay.
I didn't confirm, but I recall there's a Spider-Man comic I had where Moon Knight's in a coffin, Moon Knight's in a coffin, I think. Maybe Spider-Man was in the coffin.
I believe I've seen that cover. Yeah, it's a pretty cool cover. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe that was one of these issues. I should have checked on that.
Mm-hmm.
So after the several guest appearances and solo stories, he got his own series here in 1980. And this series ran for 38 issues. 38 issues. Then it was canceled. And then he did some other stuff. But Moon Knight's been back. He's had several runs since then. There's one in the 90s, I remember, where I think the artist's name was Stephen Pratt. Does that sound familiar?
Stephen Platt. But he didn't start the series. He came in a little bit later, right?
Yeah, but he was kind of a thing back then. Right. It was like because he was basically, no offense, Stephen, but basically a ripoff of Todd McFarlane. And
he was, absolutely, yeah.
But he was getting a lot of attention back then. Mm-hmm. And then I think they came back again later with David Finch was the artist.
Right.
I think.
I read a couple of those, yep.
And then most recently, there's been a couple runs, but probably the most famous is, what's that writer's name? Warren Ellis? Is that
Warren Ellis, yes. Yeah. Basically a reboot without being a reboot. It kind of it doesn't ignore anything from the past, but it doesn't really acknowledge anything from the past.
Yeah, because we'll get into some of the details about his character and how it evolved when we get through here. But basically, Mike L., do you consider Moon Knight a ripoff of Batman?
I mean, if you're going to say he's a ripoff of Batman, then almost every superhero is a ripoff of either Superman or Batman. I mean, obviously, this is a little bit closer than maybe some
he's a rich guy who works as a superhero in his spare time as a vigilante. And,
right.
And he has like a little plane that's shaped like a moon and kind of like a bat. And there's a lot of similarities. And he throws his little moon like dagger things instead of bats and so.
Well, you know what, I to be honest, I wish, I really only know Moon Knight from a few scattered issues from like the runs that you mentioned, and then I've read everything from the Warren Ellis reboot almost up until now, and I really like those, but I guess I'm not authoritative enough on him to know how much of it was there from the beginning. And so and again, that goes back to this issue, because when I read it, I thought it was his first appearance, and so much of what I had heard about Moon Knight was just glossed over in this. But I guess if I were to go back and read those Werewolf by Night appearances,
see, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay,
this was the first actual origin story for him. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
this is what the character is based on. Those earlier appearances were just, random stuff. I don't think they ever got into the origin until now. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I can, okay. So my first impression is it's. I think there's a lot of really good elements. Like I was trying to imagine because I don't know if you've heard, but they've announced a Moon Knight TV show, right?
Yes, that's why I
Yeah.
wanted to pick this because I know some people aren't familiar with Moon Knight. They never heard of the Moon Knight. Some people like our buddy Larry thought Moon Knight was a lady. So,
Okay.
you got to explain this stuff to people. So I thought now would be a good time. The TV show is going to be on what, Disney Plus?
Yes,
Is
I
that
believe
what
so.
it's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, so yeah, so I'm reading this, I'm thinking there's a lot of really cool elements. One of the things, I don't think the Marvel movies I don't think any of them are particularly spectacular, but at least they're all completely different. And reading this, I'm like, okay, so here we go. This is another Marvel character with a completely unique background. It starts out with him as basically a terrorist. Like he's working
No,
for,
he's not a terrorist.
well,
He's a mercenary, Michael.
but in the first page they call Bushman a terrorist for hire, and they call
Yeah,
Mark Spector second in command. So
technically,
yeah,
he's a mercenary. He's a
okay,
mercenary.
okay. So
and and they were invading rebel camps in the Sudan, south of the Egyptian border. Right? They're on their
okay,
horses and they're riding in to attack these rebel camps. Now, who are these rebels? What are their political? Those are a lot of unanswered questions.
yes,
So,
yes,
are these really bad guys they're fighting, or are they actually good, honest freedom fighters fighting against the dictator? And Mark Spector's coming in and shooting them. I don't know. I don't know.
so
But yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, at the very least, it raises questions, right? Like it doesn't make it so black and white, right? Like at least it gives him a little bit of a gray area with his origin, which I think is really cool.
but then of course they spend the next few pages. I guess we should mention Moon Knight's real name is Mark Spector, if we
Yes.
cover that. So Mark Spector and his buddy Bushman, they're leading this assault into these rebel camps. But Moon Knight is very well, he's not Moon Knight yet. He's Mark Spector. He's very like honorable. He doesn't.
Yes.
He's mad that they just go in and butcher all these people. He's like, I'm a soldier. I'm not a butcher, and you shouldn't be murdering everybody. But Bushman, Michael, he's just a lunatic, and
Yes.
and that makes me question Mark Spector. Even though they show him trying to be a good guy over the next 3 or 4 pages of being reluctant to injure, kill people for no good reason and all that stuff, he's still aligned with this Bushman fella. And describe Bushman, Michael. Describe him to the kids. What does
Well,
he look like?
he has a skull painted on his
No,
face.
no, 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 no. It's not painted, Michael. It is tattooed on his
Oh, is it
face.
tattooed?
Yes,
Okay.
it is
Very cool
tattooed.
visual. Cool
Face.
visual.
And he has steel teeth, steel fangs. His teeth
Yes.
are all metal, like Jaws in James Bond movies.
Right.
So
Early,
so here's
yeah.
a guy with a skull tattooed on his face and metal teeth, and Mark Spector's like, yeah, I'll work with that guy.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder why it took him so long to clue in, eh?
Yes. I think the face tattoo is a red flag.
And the metal teeth, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. Because Bushman, he says he tattooed the skull on his face because he wanted to be an image of fear. He wanted to strike
Yes.
fear in his enemies. And yeah, he's a real no nonsense guy. This Bushman, you don't fuck with Bushman. He's tough. So Spectre and him are button heads over the first few
Well,
pages here.
yeah, because what happens is first what happens is it's tricky because this old man comes out. I guess he's a rebel, and he's attempting to kill Bushman, but Mark
Uh,
Spector stops
no,
him.
no, 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 no. He's not her. Michael, do you actually read these books? I gotta
I
call
don't,
you.
isn't he's not a rebel?
No, no, no. They clean out that rebel camp. Then Bushman hears that there's an archaeological dig site
Right,
further
right,
down.
right.
And he
Okay.
wants to go there and loot the gold and steal the
Yes.
antiquities and stuff. And Spectre's like, hey, I don't know if this is right. I don't think we should be doing this. But Bushman's like, hey, shut up. We're doing it. So they go down there, and there's an archaeologist and his daughter. They're
Yes.
they're they're digging up these Egyptian artifacts. And when the dad hears that Bushman's coming, he grabs his gold dagger and he goes out to kill the Bushman. And Bushman stops him and just he chews his throat out. He just eats his throat.
Off panel, yes, but yes, he
Yeah,
does
yeah.
chew it out. But it's funny because he's still able to talk after that.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit,
A
yeah.
little bit. Well, maybe he didn't eat the throat out. He just bit it, like
Yeah.
like a vampire. Like
Some teeth marks, yeah.
yeah. So he bled out. Maybe that's the thing.
See, now then there's a very odd plot. What is it called? Contrivance, where basically then the daughter comes out and the daughter assumes that he killed. See, this is where we get into like problems with the writer versus the artist versus I don't know who planned what first or what was added last, but basically the daughter assumes that Mark Spector killed the father, and then instead of just saying no, I didn't do it,
Yeah.
there's actually a little caption: Spector's protest dies in his throat. If he hadn't stopped the old man's thrust, perhaps he would yet live. So then he basically decides to play along. Yeah, I killed him, and I don't get you unless you get out fast, woman. Now beat it. Kind of ridiculous.
Well, Bushman's coming to get her, and he has to get her out of there quick, and he can't have her just hanging around and arguing. So in a way, I can understand it because he did stop the old guy from stabbing Bushman, and then Bushman turned around and found the old guy and killed him. So in a way, he was responsible for her dad's death, I guess. But yeah, it is kind of contrived. He should have just said, "No, I didn't kill him. Bushman did. He's going to come kill you. Get out of here." That would have been easier. That would have been easier. And there really isn't much of a payoff to that whole angle because it's not like, well, I mean, she never really seems all that upset about it later. You know what I mean? Like she just, it just goes away. There's no like him getting into her good graces or having to earn his way into her good graces or convincing her others. Just kind of everything works out. I don't know. So yeah, but then when Bushman, Michael, he finds that Mark Spector told the daughter to run, and he's like, hey, we're going to have at it. So they fight, and he knocks out Mark Spector. He says, Spector, you're good, but Bushman is better. Bang, a fist fight. It's not even a fist fight. It's just a punch. So it's a one shot. Boom, knocks him out. And then what does he say, Michael? What does he tell his men to do to Spector?
Weak fool, take him out to the desert and dump him. Let the sun, the heat he despises so, slay him. Because, hey, they could just kill him, but let's just let him boil to death out there instead.
I could just chew his throat out like I did with that old man. But nah, let's just throw him out in the desert.
I also love how it shows his sidekick, Frenchie, is watching from the shadows. But the way that they show shadows is just put black around him. Like, they don't actually show where he is. Like,
I need to talk about Frenchie here. Frenchie's like his intel agent, or he's a buddy of his, and he has a helicopter, and he comes down and he says, before this all happens, he pulls Spector aside and he says, hey, I got Bushman's secret papers, and I don't think he's a good guy. Yeah. He's got a face tattoo, metal teeth. You just saw him slaughter a camp of... Yes, it's pretty clear he's not a good guy. Do you really need secret papers? I think
that's what Frenchie's there for.
Yeah, but then when Spector gets... they take him out in the desert and leave him there. Where's Frenchie? He has a helicopter.
Well, he was hiding in the shadows. He's still in the shadows, I guess, right?
Why isn't he helping his buddy Mark Spector? He's just like, oh, well, see you, Spector. You're screwed now, buddy. But anyway, so Mark Spector's stuck in the desert, wandering around in the heat, and he gets dehydrated, and he dies, Michael. He succumbs to the heat, and he dies.
This is where it gets a little confusing, in the sense that, okay, and again, I'm going in with expectations, right?
Yes.
I'm only going with what I've heard, but I guess I expected it to be, based on the Warren Ellis run, more mystical and more maybe supernatural.
Yeah, I can, because here's what happens. Some guys find him in the desert. Some of the archaeologists with that daughter, that they're at another site in the desert, like a pyramid or a tomb or whatever, and they pull him inside this tomb, which is the home of what's the god's name? Khonshu. Khonshu.
Yes.
Khonshu. Khonshu. And they pull him into his tomb, and the daughter's there. Oh, he's dead. And then suddenly, you see a shot of Khonshu, the statue, and then you just see Spector, and he just sits up, and he's back. He's reborn. And he's now possessed with the spirit of Khonshu, I guess. But I don't know. There's nothing real dramatic about it. Like, you don't see, like, some big mystical, magical thing happen. It's just he's dead, and he sits up. That's basically it.
No, that's what I mean. Like, sorry, did you say you've read the Warren Ellis run or no?
I read about the first 3 or 4 of them, I think.
Okay, because in the first issue, and here's the thing: is Warren Ellis does not develop it as much as he could have either. But in the first issue, I believe on the last page, he has a conversation with Khonshu.
Yeah.
but you don't really know if it's in his head. Is it really
Yeah.
Khonshu? So, which is kind of cool. But I would have expected something like that here. But right, instead we just see the shots of the statue, and
Yeah.
then instead of like being, instead of a dramatic moment where he just comes back as Moon Knight, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna pick up this cape and put it on.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know. It's like it's a bit ridiculous,
Well,
like
Khonshu, the statue there, he has like a white face and a white hood and a
right.
cloak. So he's like, I'm gonna, because he remembers what Bushman said about having an image that frightens your enemies. So he says,
Mhm.
I'll put this white cloak on and it will strike fear in my enemies. I
Mm.
guess looks like a bed sheet, but all right.
Yeah, I know that's
Yeah,
what I mean. Yeah.
man, not real scared.
And he actually says,
But
yeah, he's like, yes, one of the gods of the moon, known as the Taker of Vengeance, a figure of terror. And then the girl goes, but how did you know all that? I'm
yeah,
not sure. I
yeah,
don't know. It's very awkward dialogue.
yeah. By the way, just Khonshu, he is in fact the ancient Egyptian god of the moon, and his name means traveler, and he is a
Okay.
renowned healer and giver of life. So that
Okay.
makes sense that he brought him back to life then after that. So
Sure.
that's something.
It's a cool idea. I guess it's not
Yeah.
executed properly.
Yeah, I just expected some big dramatic moment or I don't know, some energy bolts or something. I don't know, just
Yeah.
something. Some
Something.
magic, something.
Then he
But
also, I just want to read this too. Then he says, so she goes, Mister, you're delirious. You must be. You don't know what you're doing. And he says, don't I? Don't the dead know what they're about? Because I did die, remember? Even though we're not really sure if he did. I'm a ghost
what?
now, a specter of the moon's night of vengeance, and I've got work to do.
Yeah,
But
well,
was he officially dead?
yeah, he was officially dead. When the
Okay.
guys dragged him into the tomb, they said he was dead. So,
Okay.
um, I don't know. But yeah, why drag him in if he's dead already? Who cares? Leave him alone. I don't know. But anyway, so then he gets his little cape on and he goes back to get vengeance against Bushman and his men.
Yes.
And I think I seem to recall there were grenades involved as well, right? Didn't he throw a grenade and like kill all Bushman's dudes? And then he was fighting Bushman and Bushman
Yeah.
escapes. Oh, because Frenchie catches the girl, right? He catches the girl sneaking up on him, Marlena, the daughter,
Right.
and that distracts Spectre, and he turns around to see Frenchie, and he's like, "Hey, I thought she was going to stab you or something." But then Bushman escapes, and he loses Bushman.
Yeah. It's just it's funny because Bill Sienkiewicz, everyone loves him because of his run on New
Yeah,
Mutants,
he's
which I
the
read.
artist here, Bill
Yeah,
Sienkiewicz.
which I read recently, and I thought, I've always loved Bill Sienkiewicz's
Yeah,
covers, but when I'm reading New Mutants, I thought, wow, his storytelling is just not as good as Sal Buscema or Bob McLeod,
yeah,
whoever he replaced. And I find that here, it's like he is clearly a really good artist, but there's so many times where the storytelling was just awkward.
yeah.
And it's like
I
there's
agree.
like if you look at this page where he runs into Frenchie, it's like if you look at it, there's no backgrounds in any panel.
Yes, that
It's
was the
just
point I had. I had this down when we were going to get into the creators more. But yeah, one of the points I had was if you look, there's not a lot of background work being done here. He does the figures, and then the background will just be a solid color of random color, really. Whoever was color.
right.
Yeah, sometimes it'll be they really like no rhyme or reason why the colors are chosen either. Just red,
No,
yellow, blue, whatever they just thrown back there.
that's the thing is like there's such a thing as like making the colors artificially red or artificially blue to like help the mood or whatever.
Yeah,
But that's not the case here. It's kind of just
no,
random, like you said.
no, not at
Yeah.
all. But we'll get into Sienkiewicz here a little bit later. But getting back to the story, so right after Bushman escapes Michael, then we get a dramatic bang, like a shift in story. Now we're I don't know, are they in New York or where are they? Is that where they live? I don't know.
This is I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they are. But yeah, this was the most jarring thing about the story.
Yes, it's very jarring.
Because again, I thought, okay, I've always thought this was such a unique aspect of Moon Knight is that he had three secret identities. And
Yeah,
I thought,
I
wow, they're
never
really
really
going to go
knew
into
that.
that.
I knew
Yeah,
he had the split personalities and stuff in later series, but I didn't know like originally he had three aliases. I wasn't aware of that.
well, see, I thought maybe it was something that developed over the years, right? Like how Bruce Wayne has Bruce Wayne, then he kind of has Matches Malone when he wants to go undercover. So I thought
Yeah,
maybe
I have no idea. Who is his what's his alias's name?
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
Oh, in the cartoon, it's Matches Malone. Whenever he wants to
Matches
go,
Malone.
yeah, get information from like street thugs. He'll just dress up as this kind of rough almost homeless guy and like hang
Yeah.
out at bars and stuff like that and get information.
Well,
So I thought that's
that's
what they were going for here,
that's
but
kind of a rip off of Sherlock Holmes. He used to do that kind of stuff.
that's true. That's true. Totally.
Um,
But yeah, that's the thing is they instead of developing it, they just explain it in one panel.
yep, one panel.
He
It,
regains his health and acquires 3 new identities, and then it
that's
is explained it, and that's it.
yeah. There's no transition at all. Like you,
No.
one second they're in the Sudan, and then the next minute,
Mm.
bang! He's in his mansion. He's dressed in his like ascot and smoking jacket or whatever, and he's recording something on his audio recorder. And Marlene, the daughter, the archaeologist's daughter, who once hated him and despised him, she's in like some flimsy negligee, and she's just walking around his house like nobody's business, and she's calling him Stephen Grant, like Stephen, because he's got three aliases: Mark Spector, the mercenary; Stephen Grant, who's some like Wall Street tycoon or something, and then what's the cabbie's name? I got it written down here somewhere.
Where is it? Oh, Jake Lockley.
Jake Lockley. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a cabbie with a little hat on, and I guess that's his way of that's his match as Malone, the guy who can get around
Right.
with the criminal element. But yeah, so she walks in and she's calling him Steven.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't she know his name's actually Mark Spector? Like,
Well,
so
that's what I mean. Like, I don't know how, like, and here's the other thing is, how much of this, so obviously the first part of the story took place before his appearances in Werewolf by Night, but now what part are we, like, where are we dropping into his career? Is it right now? Is it still in the past? You know what I mean? So we don't know how much we've missed.
Yeah, it's present day, but there's so many, there are a lot of questions. Yeah, we have no idea where we're at. And at first, because I knew that he eventually developed split personalities and had like schizophrenia later in his other subsequent series, like for a while there, I think in the David Finch run, didn't he have the personalities of Captain America, Wolverine, and Spider-Man? Wasn't that his gimmick?
Well, I don't know. I did not read that run. Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure. So I thought, oh well, he has three split personalities here too, but no, these are just aliases. So like when even though she's calling him Stephen Grant, he still knows he's Moon Knight and everything. Like there's no, he's one guy with three aliases, not one guy with three distinct personalities. Put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's just weird. And then he's got like a butler, I guess, like his Alfred. I forget his butler's name, Jimmy, or I don't know what it was. But and he's got his little plane and everything.
Well, yeah, this is more Batman.
Yes.
Right? Like absolutely, yeah.
Except the good thing with Spectre, he doesn't have a prepubescent boy as a sidekick. He has a smoking hot lady, so that helps. That definitely true, yeah. A step up.
One improvement, yeah.
And I guess Frenchie's still around. Do we see Frenchie in here? But I know he's still in later Moon Knight issues I read. He's around. So.
Oh yeah, he's totally around. I don't know if he's visually here, but yeah, he talks to him in this issue afterwards.
Yeah. I think on a radio or something. Yeah, but anyway. So Moon Knight wants to go. He stopped some drug deal or something going on in, I guess, we'll just say New York, and he found that one of the guys had a Bushman necklace, like a skull of the, his face tattoo there. So this is one of Bushman's men. So that means Bushman is here in New York City. I have to go undercover as Jake Lockley, the cabbie, and get information. And he goes to one guy at a diner. Boom, gets all the information he needs. It was great.
Not much detective work done there, eh?
No. Well, he had to put on the cabbie hat, so that's a lot of work.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and that's really all he does for his aliases, his disguises. Like when he's the rich tycoon guy, well, he just dresses rich, like a rich guy. And when he's a cabbie, he just puts on a cap. Like there's no fake mustache, no makeup or anything. Just puts on a cap.
Well, did you also notice they tried to explain how he just magically became rich?
Yeah. I don't. Do they address that at all? Or
yeah, they said something. They said he is still Mark Spector, and he becomes Stephen Grant, whose Wall Street wizardry parlays Spector's modest savings into a millionaire's fortune.
Wall Street wizardry. Yeah. Well, I have modest savings. I guess I'm just missing out on the Wall Street wizardry.
There you go.
Damn you, Mark Spector. Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen Grant.
There you go.
Damn you.
Straight. Yeah.
So Moon Knight finds out where Bushman is. And he goes to this like a seedy gambling den, makeshift casino bar, and he just walks in as Moon Knight, full Moon Knight regalia. And now as Moon Knight, of course, he's in the classic white costume with the hood and the full face, white face and everything, and the big moon emblem on his chest. He just walks right in. He says, "Hey, call your boss and tell him I'm walking into his trap." And he just starts walking up the steps. That's a bold move.
It is.
He just says, "Hey, tell him I'm coming. It ain't gonna matter. I'm still gonna whoop his ass."
Well, no,
So
wait a minute. And now here's the thing: is I mean, you probably know this. Does Moon Knight technically have any superpowers or no? He doesn't,
no, I don't think he's supposed to just be an average fit guy,
right? So
But
where did he get his training? Oh, I guess he was a
well,
mercenary. So
he was a mercenary. Yeah,
okay,
so,
that's true.
so I guess he did train and that kind of stuff. But it's weird that he was a mercenary yet he doesn't use a gun or anything. Interesting.
But it goes back to the Batman thing. I guess he's just relying on his gadgets and his jet and his car and his tools or whatever, right?
And his
Just like
foxy
Batman.
and his foxy blonde. He
Yep.
also his weapons we should mention. He throws these little darts, moon shaped darts, and also he's got like a truncheon, like a billy club, like Daredevil, which is interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
I guess I mean he got better as he went along, but I guess at this point, yeah, he's pretty derivative of other characters, eh?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. So he walks in, he gets upstairs, he busts in and to beat up the dudes, and he comes through the door, Michael, with a it's with a headstand reverse double kick to two dudes' faces.
I was gonna point that out. That is
It's-
preposterous.
yes.
Like, what kind of momentum could he possibly have
Yes.
in that position? You know?
This is the kind of thing like Spider-Man can get away with because he has that super spider strength. So you don't, you can do, and he's very flexible and can do stuff like that. Moon Knight, nah, it's not going to hurt anybody.
No, no, you're right. You're right.
They're just going to like step backwards and like, what the hell is this guy doing?
It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
okay, gymnast boy, whatever you want to do. But then Moon Knight makes quick work of everybody. But of course, we should mention Marlene, the foxy blonde. She's tracking Moon Knight. She's sneaking up. She's trailing him because she, I guess, still wants to get Bushman for killing her dad. And she wants to make sure Mark Spector stays safe, or I'm sorry, Stephen Grant or whoever the hell he is, stays safe. So she's sneaking into the hideout as well when the big fight's going on. But he's fighting the Bushman, and Bushman gets the upper edge, Michael, and he's about to clamp down on him with his steel teeth. And
The
then
steel teeth seek Moon Knight's jugular, but find only his. How do you pronounce that? Truncheon?
truncheon.
Oh, truncheon. Okay.
I also like the word cudgel. I'd like to use the word cudgel as well.
Okay.
But, truncheon, and yeah, he bites into the billy club there, and like I guess like doesn't break his teeth, but he blocks him, and then Moon Knight just starts laying into him, just beating the holy hell out of Bushman. This is a one-sided fist fight, and he's about to beat him to death. And or wait, is this no? This was actually I jumped ahead because Marlene sneaks in, right? Marlene comes.
Yeah. So Marlene's there now. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell them what happens with Marlene.
Well, and this is where I don't know if I really am following her logic, but this is her father that was killed, correct?
Yes.
And she's the one that stops him from killing the Bushman. It goes back to that classic superhero, like, that you'll be just as bad as he is, and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah kind of speech.
Well, but first, though, Mike, when she first shows up, Bushman turns and shoots her. Bang. He shoots a couple times. Bang, bang. And he catches her in their side. He just grazes her. But it looks like it goes right through her belly. But I think it's just a graze. And then Moon Knight, that's what sets Moon Knight off. That's where he goes ballistic. And he just starts beating the holy hell out of Bushman. And he's about to beat him to death. And then she stops him and says, hey, you'll be just as bad as him, and gives him that whole big speech.
Right.
And so then Moon Knight relents, and they walk out to get onto the roof to get their little plane. And when he's walking out of the room, Michael, he throws one of his little moon darts. And
Yes.
after they leave at the final panel of the issue, is we see that the moon dart is stuck in like the windowsill, and it's casting a moon shadow over the Bushman. So when the security guard comes in, and by the way, why is there just a normal security guard, like a guy, he's an elderly guy, he's got a flashlight. Why is he working at this seedy criminal enterprise? He looks like he should be working at like the department store down the street.
Yeah, like the mall cop, yeah.
It's very strange. But yeah, Bushman's dead, and there's a big moon cut out on his body to symbolize that Moon Knight was there.
I don't know exactly how like lighting works, but I don't know if that moon dart would cast the shadow quite that big. But yeah.
Now let me ask you this, Michael. Do you think the ending would have been better if, like, when she's giving him this big speech about how you can't kill him, you'll be just as bad as him. Come on, let's go. And he's leaving, and we see him turn around and throw that little moon dart, because then it cuts. The scene cuts, and we
Mhm.
don't know where the moon dart went. Then, if it comes back in the final panel, is that Bushman on the ground with that moon dart right between the eyes, killing him, right
That'd be
in his
great.
throat.
That'd be great.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so Moon Knight's like, yeah, all right, I'm leaving. Yeah, okay, I'll be better than him. And then when she's not looking, bang, kills him with a moon dart. That'd
That
be
would have
pretty
been much
awesome.
more satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
would have
agree
been
with
great.
that.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the first issue of Moon Knight. So Mike L, if you were a kid, how old were you when you were 1980? Like
Oh,
5 years,
geez.
4 years old,
Four.
4 years
Four
old,
years old. Yeah.
and you read this. Would you have been like, oh my God, I got to read more Moon Knight? Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, by my 4-year-old standards, yes, I might have been,
There were some
enticed.
fist fights. There were gunplay.
Yeah.
There's a foxy blonde and a negligee. There was, yeah, there's a lot of things to like. A guy with a face tattoo and metal teeth. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to like here. I don't know.
There's definitely a lot of stuff to like. Yeah, I guess it's just because I read a lot of Doug Moench Batman when I was a kid, and I always thought he was a good writer. But some of the dialogue in here is just too much explanation. Like when he, like we said earlier, when he's putting on his costume, and explaining why he's putting on the costume and why he's taking this identity, it really ruins the mystique. You know what I mean? And it's funny because a lot of people love like Batman Begins, how they show how he built his costume and gets the mask and paints it black. And I always thought that ruined the mystique. So I think it would have been a lot better to show, like we said, some type of, if not supernatural, at least make it seem somewhat mystical the way he becomes Moon Knight.
Yeah, like I mean, it's implied, but you really don't get a real sense of it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's no defining moment of like, oh, well, now he's Moon Knight. It's just, oh, I was sleeping and I woke up. Yeah, you mentioned the writer Doug Moench. He began working for Marvel in 1973 with Chamber of Chills #7,
Okay. Okay.
and then he became the head writer for Marvel's Curtis Magazines line. Are you familiar with this? The Curtis Magazines line?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, it's like it was a separate imprint. It was technically not Marvel, right?
yeah, it was under the Marvel umbrella, and it was a black and white like magazine format anthology comics.
Right.
And he was basically the de facto head writer for it, and he wrote Planet of the Apes and Doc Savage.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He also had a critically acclaimed run on Master of Kung Fu from
Yes.
1974 to 77. Now, have
Mm-hmm.
you ever read that? I never
I,
read the Master
I
of the Kung
have
Fu.
never read it, but people do rave about it. They say it's great.
Yeah, like I saw it listed on some list of like the best 70s comics from Marvel, and it was on there. So
Hmm.
well,
And
maybe we'll check
he
that
did
out.
like 100 issues, didn't he, or something?
Well, a 3-year run, or
Oh,
possibly,
okay.
so probably 40 or so if you
Okay.
74, 75, 76, 77. Technically, could be a
Yeah.
4-year run.
Okay.
He wrote 31 of the first 33 Moon Knight issues.
Okay.
And aside from Moon Knight, who he co-created, he also co-created Deathlock.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
for Deathlock. He's a
Oh
good
yeah,
kid.
absolutely. Yep.
So then he went to DC and he wrote Batman and Detective Comics from 83 to 86. And during
Yes.
this run, he introduced the villains Black Mask, Film Freak, and Night Slayer.
All who have amounted to absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna
Because
say,
I've
I've heard
never
of
heard.
Black Mask. I never heard of the other two.
You know what? I think it might have an issue with Night Slayer in it, and for only that reason, I know who Night Slayer is. But and
And,
they're all good. Like I read some of those issues, and they're definitely good. They're definitely moody. I guess I'm just not sure how good the dialogue is, and.
well, Black Mask is basically, hey, let's pretend the Red Skull had a black skull instead of a red skull.
Yes.
Black Mask. But what's Night Slayer's gimmick? Like, what does he do? What's
From what I remember, I think Night Slayer. All I remember is didn't he have a gray costume? I think, and that's
uh,
all I really remember. I don't know. There wasn't. I mean, I remember I think he was the character that was always talking about. It was almost like a Frank Miller esque inner kind of dialogue, like talking about. I don't know, like like the knight being his lover and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember the details, but it was some weird stuff like that.
That sounds spectacular.
Yeah.
The knight being his lover. All right, so then
Yeah.
Mensch would later go on to write the Nightfall storyline, Michael, the big Nightfall storyline,
Right.
where
I can
Bane
only
breaks Batman's back.
not my favorite. Not my favorite.
Really? Because I thought the premise of that was I actually was buying Batman then just to read the that storyline because I thought the premise was tremendous. Like they get all the villains out of Arkham Asylum and Batman has to round them all up, and then when he's all beaten and tired after fighting all these villains, then Bane comes in and breaks his back. I thought it was great.
I think I mean to me it's from that same era as Death of Superman, which I didn't like, and the Clone Saga and Age of Apocalypse, where everything was about all these big events, and I'm sure that there was some really good ideas in there, but I feel like all of them went on way too long. Because like even with this, there was Nightfall, then Night Quest, right? Like it went on for
Yeah.
several years, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Because he also wrote issue 500 of Batman, I guess, where Azrael took over for
Right.
Batman, and that was terrible, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think at this point, that's what I mean. Like a lot of those events were written by some decent writers, but it's almost like they were kind of just at the whim of whatever the event was, right?
Yeah,
So
I
it's not
agree.
like here, or or a Batman, like the '70s Batman or '80s Batman, where you could just go read one issue and enjoy it. In those '90s stories, they were kind of just filling in pages, right, just to get through the next chapter of whatever the big event was. So it wasn't as good, I didn't think.
Yeah. So Mench's work here on this issue, the dialogue was questionable, right? And maybe
Yeah.
the moment where he becomes Moon Knight should have been better, more dramatic, and
Yeah, and like the way he explained his powers, like got the idea from my glider cape from Moon Knight's first drop into action. It's not as good as a real parachute, of course, or even a
yes.
hand glider, but good enough to get me down to one piece. Like, ugh, just leave it alone. We can figure it out.
Again, you got to remember this is 1980. It was a simpler time.
Sure.
Like that kind of stuff was pretty, every
Totally,
yeah,
totally.
that was everywhere in comics at the time. That exposition and stuff, um, and also the jarring switch from the Sudan story to the New York story was really disruptive. It was
That was yes.
yeah, it was weird. And again, maybe the ending would better if he just killed Bushman. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, just putting
Yeah.
it out there, just putting it out there. All right, so the artist Bill Sienkiewicz, uh, we mentioned. Well, he did a famous run on New Mutants '84 to '86, but he broke into comics at just 19 years old. Michael,
Wow.
he
What a
started doing
talent.
Moon Knight when he was 22. So this is very early Bill Sienkiewicz. And if you just look at the the artwork here, I would defy anyone to say, oh yeah, that's Bill Sienkiewicz. Like it doesn't look like him. It looks very reminiscent of Neil Adams, and that's what
Absolutely.
a lot of people say that he really, especially early Sienkiewicz, looked like Neil Adams. But as he progressed as an artist, he got into some really interesting stuff. He did Fantastic Four from '80 to '81. Did you ever read any of that? I never saw.
Yeah, I might have read one or two issues, but from what I remember, it just looked like very standard Marvel,
Yeah, because again,
superhero
that's
art.
that's when he's 22. He's still getting his way.
Right,
New Mutants '84 to '86. I think this is where you see him start to find his style,
right.
especially with his cover work. Did a lot of painting, painted thing. How would you describe? Like, I guess illustrative would be one way to describe it. Like, very like sharp lines, clean lines, exaggerated forms. Um,
Yeah, and this is where we need Jolie to help, GI Jolie to help us with the definitions here because I don't really know how to define it, but there's definitely fine art, but there's also like commercial art influence there.
yes, yes.
And so like a lot of people will kind of complain that his art was almost too abstract, but you can clearly see his anatomy is flawless. Like he knows exactly, like even in this issue at age 22 or whatever he was, you can see how good his anatomy is. It's just that as he developed, he chose to use that more angular
And,
impressionistic style, right?
and I love it. I
Oh,
love
me too, me
Yeah,
too.
especially his painted covers. And we mentioned before on the show he did Daredevil: Love and War graphic novel.
Right.
It's all painted.
Mm-hmm.
It's spectacular. And in '86, '87, he also did Elektra Assassin. That might be his most famous
Right.
work, which I still haven't read, but you recognize the art immediately when you see it.
Yeah.
It's so dynamic. He did a he did a lot of covers and inking for both companies. He did extensive work outside of comics, and he actually won 2 Emmys for his art on Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego.
Wow, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego?
Wow. Okay.
We already talked about in this issue. Not a lot of backgrounds, just solid colors were put in there. He did have some weird foreshortening of limbs. Like pretty much every page, there'd be one panel where a leg or a hand or an arm was like thrust toward the camera. Um, it was a little annoying, but otherwise. But again, this is a young Bill Sienkiewicz. He's finding his way, so it's fascinating to see it and to see how his style evolves over the years. Because again, I love his stuff later on. Oh
Me
my
too.
goodness.
I have to give a shout out to the cover of Transformers #1 because that
Yeah,
was
that's right.
Sienkiewicz.
Yep,
Yes.
painted that up. Yeah, his cover work is just I don't know. Is there a better cover artist out there? I don't know. When I think great covers, I think Bill Sienkiewicz.
He's in the top 5, I would say. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's some other great ones in the 80s, like Mike Zeck and Michael Golden, but Bill
Oh,
Sienkiewicz,
yeah.
yeah, he's one of the best. Absolutely.
Yep. And Michael, here's a side question here. When I was looking through this and I was reading about what Sienkiewicz did, because he did Electro Assassin at 86, New Mutants up till 86, Daredevil Love and Wars 86, and I started thinking, what was the single greatest year for comic books? Because I got to tell you, right off the top of my head, I think 86 might be it. We'll have to dig into this deep sometime.
I think that's almost universally acknowledged by at least our generation, right? Because
Yeah,
you had,
it definitely matters how old you are, but for like our generation, I think 86 was a sweet spot. That was
well,
pretty good.
you got Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns. Then you have like Mouse for indie comics, right?
Oh, see, I didn't even know all those were 86 too.
Oh yeah, there's Crisis on Infinite Earth. So yeah, like so this is a huge turning point for comics.
It was real big for me because 86 was when I picked up my first issue of X-Men, X-Men 207. Like,
Oh, okay.
because we've mentioned before, I had X-Men 129 first appearance of Kitty Pryde, but I got that when I was a little kid. I didn't know what I was doing.
Sure.
And I didn't even know I had it until I became an X-Men fan. Then I was looking through my old comics. I'm like, holy hell, I have issue 129. But yeah, so 207, the cover of Wolverine scratching his claws down the front.
Right.
Follow the Mutant Massacre. I'm sorry, the Mutant Massacre storyline.
That was drawn by John Romita Jr.
Yes.
Great cover.
So that was my first issue of X-Men, and that was 86. So that
Okay.
really got me into comics again, hardcore. So yeah, 86 might be my year. We'll have to dig deep on this at some point and come up with all the issues to see if there's another year that could compare. But yeah, 1986 sounds pretty good. All right, Michael. So that's the Moon Knight. Anything else you'd like to say about the issue or the character?
I can only say that anyone listening, if you like Moon Knight, I highly recommend the Warren Ellis reboot. And it was followed by even better stories by, I believe it was Brian Wood and a few other writers. Jeff Lemire had a good run with some excellent art by Greg Smallwood. So if you like Moon Knight, please check it out. Because I know that, like, people of our generation, there's a lot of Facebook groups that I follow, like old guys that like old comics and Back Issue Magazine. And there's a lot of people that tend to think that Moon Knight was never as good as he was here, but like this is humble beginnings to say the least.
Yes.
So I'll just leave it at that. I mean, definitely an enjoyable run, but not quite what I thought it would be.
I like the character though. I think
Yes.
Moon Knight's a nice character. I like the visual look of the hood and the all white outfit. Although we should mention like the Warren Ellis run, he gets a new look. He just wears like a suit, like an actual suit, and, with a white mask pulled over his face, no hood,
No.
just in like a 3-piece suit. So that's interesting. Which look do you prefer? Do you prefer like Mr. Knight or the old school Moon Knight with the hood?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I guess I prefer the classic look, but I can understand why they changed it. Yeah.
And it was a good change. It was effective, and it was I liked it. But anyway,
I also love, I love the idea of using the moon as his motif. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I hope they get into that if they do like the TV show, like the Egyptian gods and all that stuff. That'd be really cool.
So 1 out of 10, Micah, what would you give Moon Knight #1 from 1980?
Ooh, okay. I give the art like a solid, I'll give it a 7 because it is really good, but the storytelling's all over the place.
See, that's higher than the art. I think the art's not as good as this. I'd probably overall I'd give the issue like a 5. I think.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I give the writing like a 4, so it kind of averages out to maybe a 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely kind of a middling Bronze Age comic, I would say.
Yeah, but I still enjoyed reading it just to see how Moon Knight started
Absolutely, yeah,
and to see a young Bill Sienkiewicz, to see his work.
definitely.
That was fun. All right, Michael. So that's Moon Knight #1. Next week, it's your pick.
You got it. Okay, you're gonna love this. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
The long-awaited return of Mr. Miracle.
Oh, interesting.
Mr. Miracle number 19 from what year is this? Like 1977?
Okay, I'll take your
Yeah.
word for it.
So,
Here's what I know about the Mr. Miracle. Wasn't he a Jack Kirby creation?
yes.
And he got all sorts of praise in recent years. I guess his new Mr. Miracle run was highly acclaimed.
Yes, Tom King is excellent.
All right. And he's like an escape artist?
He is an escape artist. Yes, he's actually based on the artist Jim Steranko, because Jim Steranko, on
Oh, that's
top of
right.
being,
I did
yeah,
read
he was
this.
also
Yeah.
a comic artist. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear about this before. That's funny. Yeah. And also he's in love with a very large lady, like a tall, big
Yes,
lady.
Big Barda. Yes.
Big Barda.
And did you know that he is actually the son of Darkseid? The
What?
adopted son. He's the
Oh,
adopted
okay.
son. Okay, let's for anyone out there, don't get too angry at me. He's the adopted son of Darkseid. Calabac is the biological son of Darkseid, but they switch, like the two fathers have a pact and they switch their sons. And so Mr. Miracle is raised on Apocalypse.
Wait a minute. How did this happen? Like Darkseid's just, wow, my son's a real dick. I want to trade him for that guy. Give me that
No,
guy.
I think it was like a peace pact. Like, okay, like this is how we're gonna keep the peace between the good guys and the bad guys. Is we'll switch our sons, and I'll raise your son, and you raise my son. That's pretty much
Oh,
it.
so that way, because I'm raising your son, you won't kill me or something.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
But when he couldn't he just kill him then take his son back?
Man, they didn't think of that, eh? I don't know.
Yes.
Damn.
Anyway, Mr. Miracle. Well, that's an interesting pick, Michael. I'm excited to read this because I really don't have any experience with reading Mr. Miracle. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this then.
Well, don't get too excited about Jack Kirby, because this is actually the comeback where all of Jack Kirby's New Gods titles were canceled in the early to mid 70s. And so this is like the second wave when they were all brought back by other creators, okay?
Okay.
So this is Mr. Miracle number 19, written by Steve Englehart and drawn by Marshall Rogers.
I have no familiarity with Marshall Rogers at all.
Oh, what about Steve Englehart? You know him, right?
Yeah, from his work on like the Avengers and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Marshall Rogers, when I was growing up, I only knew him from like a couple issues of G.I. Joe and some other things, but he was actually a fairly big artist in the 70s, and he's pretty influential on Todd McFarlane, so you might like the art. Yeah.
I'm not a huge McFarlane fan.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. But whatever. All right, so that's what issue is that again? 19.
Mr. Miracle, yeah, Mr. Miracle 19 from 1977.
All right, so that's next week, right here.
Yes, Tuesday night.
Yeah.
All right. So this has been another Flea Market Fantasy. Please, everybody, remember to share this video with all your friends. Tell everyone about us. Tweet us out, like our videos, share our videos, right? Do everything you can. Let us know what you think of the comics we're reviewing. Let us know what you think of our reviews. Anything else you can think of, Mike Dell?
No, thanks for asking.
All right. So yeah, I mean, the landscape is certainly littered with people reviewing comics online, but as I'm sure you'll agree, we are the best. So please, again, be sure to tell all your pals about us. Flea Market Fantasy with Mike L and Mike Dell, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.